Hello and welcome again to Barcelona, Spain. I know I've done this track quite a few times in the past few videos, but for one, it's one of my favorite tracks, I think. It's just very technical and a lot of different corners, but I think there's a pretty good flow to most of the track. And two, there was an endurance event put up by REVV Racing. I've already done two of their endurance events, the first one in Spa, um, and the next one on Silverstone last week. And so now they had one on Barcelona, and then it being one of my favorite tracks, so I thought, of course, I'll go for it. Now, notably, I run it a few times in the week, and I improved what felt like with a fluke on my personal best on this track. So I improved to a 145.7, whereas previously I'd been struggling to get into the 146s, and I think my personal best before that was a 146 point, somewhere in mid 146s. So that was a sudden massive improvement, and I haven't really been able to replicate it. But in qualifying here, my first time round was I think 146.6 if I'm not mistaken, and then I improved it still to a 146.3, which I was already very happy with, even though it's 6/10 off my personal best. I had basically no idea how I did that lap. It must have just been everything coming together at once, which is very rare on a track with this many and this technical corners. So yeah, I tried more qualifying laps, but didn't really manage to do better. I still did a 146.5, and I was up on my delta for a bit of the lap, but didn't end up working out. So off we went to the start, and I started in P13. The timing sheet is a bit off because Ramirez should have started to my front left, actually next to the white Ferrari in front of me, but they were hanging back a bit. Now, I had a better start than the white Ferrari, and Ramirez already started behind me, so even though he came a little back, it wasn't enough to really come alongside. And I tried to play it safe on the start, but still be a bit assertive, and it worked out well. See his car spinning out there, that was Logic spinning out. But so yeah, it worked out well because on the start I kind of got to jump Malanga, the white Ferrari in front of me. And we can see it again in the replay. So I'm, as always, the teal Porsche. To my left, on my right on the photo, is Ramirez marked in purple. Behind me was Merchant, aka Pineapple, marked in black. And then in front of me is the white Ferrari of Malanga. So that's the car I jumped at the start. And Ramirez, the purple Ford Mustang, is the car that kind of should have started next to Malanga, but yeah, the grid rows were really quite off at this start for some reason, not sure why. I marked the ones that should be next to each other, and you can see they're very all over the place, really. And especially Ramirez is quite a bit behind, and then the car behind them, Cohen, in the, I think, black Ford Mustang, is also a bit behind as a result. But yeah, made for a good start for me because I got the jump on this white Ferrari right away, but I needed a place to move into, and I didn't really want to move to the inside of turn one. I'd rather be on the outside there, especially at the start, just to have more time for the braking and not be pincered on the inside, basically. Because at the start there's so many cars that there's always going to be a car moving to the inside, so you can't really move in there. So anyway, I got the jump, then we see Logic spin out, and then into turn 3, I'm now ahead of Malanga, but he's immediately making a comeback on me, basically, as we are heading to turn 4. Now, the initial exit out of turn 3 was clearly better, but then by the time we get to turn 4, I'm still a little ahead. And they don't really quite make it alongside, but then they shoot to the inside. And it was just the start of the race, and the previous corner is actually one of my braking points I've been working on to go brake later. But old habits die hard, so I brake still a bit early. Also lap 1, you know, a bit nervous and just finding your legs. So yeah, Malanga dives to the inside and just does much better on the braking. We can see that again in the replay. So first getting a whiff on the inside in turn 4, but it's always nicer to be on the inside in turn 5 as well. So they just do a switch back here and then better on their braking, as we can see. So even though they're on the tighter line, they can just run to the outside anyway and get a good exit, because basically mid-corner the pass was already made. Now on my left we can see Merchant, the purple Nissan GTR. purple and black, I guess. Also, perhaps thinking about a move, but doesn't quite get it done and backs off before we get to turn 9 after running up the hill through the S's. So as we approach the end of lap 1, I was pretty happy because I felt I had done well on the start. I gained a few places. And I was sticking with the front pack for now. That's also because they're just holding each other up, but still, I was happy with this. Especially because at the start of the race and in qualifying, I was checking the list of participants, and as I mentioned, I like the track quite a lot, and also it's one of the tracks. If I compare to the records for the track, I'm probably closest, relatively speaking, out of basically any track I've raced. Maybe I'm blabbering on, sorry. So there was Malanga. I didn't expect to be able to pass them. I figured I would just throw a dummy on the inside of turn 1, but then they were very tentative on the brakes there, and I managed to get the move done. But yeah, what I was about to say was basically the participant list was very short, and all the people on it were the regulars that are fast. So here we see me wanting to throw a dummy, then Malanga just brakes late. And even though I run a bit too deep actually in turn 1, by that point the move is already done, and then I can park it on the apex and stay ahead in turn 2. But yeah, Malanga immediately starts for a move back. Basically carbon copy of what happened on the previous round, only this time Malanga already preemptively basically moves to the outside in turn 4 so that they'll have the inside in turn 5. And indeed, they make about the same move. Difference this time is that I was better on the brake, so I kept them on a tight line on the inside, even though I did give space. And they end up bumping into me, and I'm backing off to give the position back to presumably avoid a penalty. So in the replay, in turn 3, not really close. Turn 4, quite a bit closer, but going on the outside line, which isn't ideal, but it is good for the next turn in here in 5. Now, I left them a car to it, even though it was a dive, but they still ran into me, so they cautiously back off to not get a penalty there. And that leaves the door open for a moment for Merchant to try and make a move. But then in the S's uphill, Merchant runs a bit too deep in the first part of the sequence and then backs off from there. So at this stage, we're approaching the end of lap 2. I'm maintaining P9, which I was super happy about given the field of participants was very strong. And basically there was only one person that I figured I really should beat, that's Merchant. Then there was Ramirez, who I have been beating on previous tracks, but it seems that he both times had quite a bit of bad luck early on, so I'm not entirely sure if it's on pace. Although I'm inclined to think yes, that my race pace is better. And then furthermore, there's Williams. He's a bit of an odd case, I guess, because on Spa he had a horrible race, and that led me to the impression that I was clearly faster than him. But then on Silverstone, I believe, he was surprisingly good. I think slightly faster than me, but I don't remember too well what he did exactly. But anyway, somewhere along the line I got that impression that Spa was maybe a fluke on his end, like just a bad race. And maybe a bit faster, but to be seen in this one basically. And then finally there's Dixit, who spun me out earlier in the week training on this track. But in any case not that much faster than me, so perhaps beatable. Anyway, there was a car spun out, so we had Logic spun out, and then I think also Dixit. So they're now behind me, as well as Malanga, who from quali at least seemed faster than me. And here we see another car spin out, Williams. But annoyingly, it was on the racing line. We can see what happened from their view here. So hit the curb a bit too hard on the throttle from there, and the car was already unsettled, so it just spins out. And then launches himself back on the track right in the racing line. I don't know about this move, I didn't like it, and it really hampered me as I was going past. And then I think he flashed his lights, perhaps to apologize, it's my best guess, but then ran off track again and got passed by a bunch more cars. So in the span of a couple moments, there's Malanga, Dixit, Logic, and Williams all behind me now, who are, I think, all faster than me by a significant amount that I don't really want to fight them hard because it's just gonna slow me down, and then I won't be able to stop them going through anyway in the end. So yeah, I'm considering the situation, and I figured my best approach is that I won't be really defending, as in putting up defensive moves, but I will just drive my racing line, and if they go for an overtake, I'll leave them space. And I kind of from there expected that to happen pretty swiftly. So we're now in lap 5, and Logic is coming up behind. Logic being the car that spun out on turn 2, basically lap 1. And he came up really fast, so I figured, yeah, no way I'm gonna keep him behind for long. Also, I think his previous lap was a 145 point something I couldn't match. I think 145.3. So yeah, expecting a dive here on the inside, and they kind of take a gander, but then they don't really go for the move. So okay, I stick to the racing line, feeling a little nervous because I just want them to make a move, so I can just, you know, don't fight it too hard and not have to think about it anymore. Because it's just a little uncomfortable when they're constantly within half a second behind you. You're constantly expecting a move and checking your mirrors, which of course takes attention away from the front and the racing line. So yeah, heading through the last corner of the lap, I expect them to make a move down this straight. So I'm already sticking quite well to the outside for turn 1. Checking my mirror, they did another 145.5 this time, and they moved to the inside, so great. But then the move doesn't actually come. I guess they were maybe still a bit too far back. And still I have to check my mirror and try not to close the door just when they do go for the move. In the meantime, my best lap so far, 147.1, and I'm up almost half a second now on it, so pretty happy with that. I suppose Logic was kind of pushing, and then finally in turn 4 he makes a move. I'm not gonna slow down too much to just give the position away, so I stick on the inside and try to hit a good braking point, and somehow I outbrake them. I was very surprised and even a little annoyed that the move still wasn't done. But yeah, here we can see pretty easy for them to come to the inside on turn 4, but then in turn 5 they are very careful on the brakes. I think they maybe wanted to go for a switchback there, but then possibly they were surprised by how slow I was on the apex, which I didn't mean to be in that case, but I think they're just clearly faster than me, so it's kind of expected. But inadvertently I park it on the apex and they can't really get a better acceleration anymore because they're too close behind to get on the throttle before I do. So anyway, finally we head once more to the hairpin. This is where I first expected the move, and this time they really go for it. And here I probably, if I really wanted to fight it, I would brake later and hang it out on the outside, or try to at least. But the inside of this corner is such a better line. It gives so much more space that I didn't really think it was worth it. So I just tried to improve my exit out of the corner by also just cutting behind immediately and then trying to stick with Logic in front. And all in all, I don't lose too much time. It's below 1 second, so I think that's quite okay. And then yeah, I have someone right in front of me and can perhaps try to follow them a bit, because I find it easier to be a bit faster when you're following someone who is faster than you as well. So across the line we go, and Logic did it in a 146.6, so even with the overtake, for me it's 148.0. And at this point I'm just expecting Logic to drive away from me and not much else. I was more looking behind where Dixit did a 146.0, Malanga a 145.8, and Williams a 147.0. But then yeah, at this point I was laughing out loud and telling Ramirez what happened, because I found it so funny. Put in so much effort to pass me, Logic, then goes too deep on turn 1, tries to already make up for it in turn 2, and basically makes the same mistake as Williams. Too much throttle on the curb of turn 2 and just spins out. So after all their work getting past me, here they are again behind me, and I'm half laughing but half groaning because I know they will just come through again, and I'm hoping this time at least they'll be more decisive about it. So here in the long downhill left-hander, expecting a move, I leave a bit of space on the inside. Don't go through it until we're super late into the turn already. At the point, it's not gonna work out. Up the hill through the S's, I didn't try to leave space, but I ran a little deep anyway. So that puts them right behind me going into turn 9. Turn 9 is, I think, my weakest corner of the track. So I think if they would have been a little further behind, they could have gotten on the brakes more easily, on the throttle, and then made a run on me towards the hairpin. But as they are too close through turn 9, they can't make a run on me, and basically the whole straight they're just steadily behind. And then by the hairpin, I'm just following my racing line, so nothing they can do there. Then the rest of the lap, sector 3 here, is just too tight and too many cars to really do anything. Even though they do give it a shot here into the chicane, which I think is very strange, to be honest. Like, there were so many corners that are much more logical overtaking places, and I'm leaving a bit of space and they don't go for it. And then here into the chicane, they kind of first try to stick it out, then try to go for a switchback type thing, I'm not sure. But basically they put themselves in the same position as turn 9, where even if they're braver on the throttle now, they're too close behind for it. And in fact it works out that way, that they kind of slide out of the last turn and even go off track for a moment. So I pull out ahead a little bit again on the main straight. And then through turn 1, I think they came a little bit too close, and I had to back off, which then gives me a bit of a gap again. Turn 4 is without any drama whatsoever. I think that the gap is just maintained. And then turn 5, I run too deep. My line is compromised, I'm slower on the exit, and already mid-corner they were catching up a lot. So now they are a bit closer again. Up the hill, not too much that can be done, but I'm hoping here that they learned their lesson and won't be too close to me coming into turn 9, so that they can have a good run out of it. Unfortunately, not the case. Same thing as before, they're a little too close going into it. They're right up my bumper mid-corner, and then by the time we get to the hairpin, they're too far behind to really go for a dive. So I'm still ahead a little bit. Yeah, not too happy at this point. This is eating so much of my attention that yeah, it's not really what I want in this stage of the race. I just want to be able to do clean laps and not have to worry about some kind of reverse back marker trying to overtake me and being indecisive about it. In the meantime too, if you look a bit further behind, Malanga and Williams I think have caught up quite a bit. Yeah, my race engineer comments on the car in front, but they're more than 20 seconds up the road, so not on my mind at all. So in turn 3, finally, Logic manages to come alongside, and we're heading to turn 4. I have to, of course, leave space on the outside, and puts me on an awkward line here. I don't like coming in it so tight already. I overshoot a little bit, and from there Logic has a pretty easy switchback where they go below and to the inside and take the position from there. And finally that's the move done. Spoiler alert, it's done for good this time, so no more spin out or pass repass situation. They get it done. So here we are in turn 4. They're sufficiently alongside heading towards it, but then they just brake a bit earlier. I outbrake myself and they dive to the inside, and that's it. By the time we get to turn 5, they're very easily ahead and can just stick to the racing line and start working on driving away from me. So skipping ahead quite a bit, he did a 145.0, I did a 148.1, had a bit of a stinker of a lap. And it's shaping up to be a similar situation now, with Williams having closed up very rapidly for a bit after passing Malanga. And now Williams is less than half a second behind, so I'm hoping he'll be more decisive about it than Logic was. But the plan is nonetheless the same for me, especially because I wasn't too sure. I saw that Williams was doing faster laps than me, but then he had the spin out several laps ago, and from what I could tell from the map at the time, and I think the timing sheet, I was pretty sure he just spun out on his own. So I figured, okay, he's doing faster laps than me, but if that's because he's just taking more risk and that makes him more error prone, then I think it is on for me to race for position with this guy, even though he's doing better average times. If he spins out every once in a while, I can just catch up from there and possibly be in an actual race with him. So yeah, I'm not gonna defend too hard. I think that would be silly. But similarly as Logic, I'm definitely not just gonna roll over and gonna try and drive my best pace, and they'll just have to make the overtake. Going towards the end of the lap, Williams is still super close behind. I'm just looking for a good opportunity to make the move. Now through the chicane, there's not much doing really, but out of the last corner, if you have a small gap in front, it's kind of perfect. If you then can beat the car in front on throttle, then especially with the draft, you can just catch up very quickly and get a move done mostly by turn 1, or at least get alongside already. Not the case for Williams though. Seems I out throttled him, but I run a little deep into turn 1, which then puts me on a tight line going into the corner for turn 2, and that allows Williams to come a lot closer once more. So now just 2 to 3 tenths of a second behind. And in turn 4, the gap is mostly maintained. Made me think that there wouldn't be a dive in turn 5, and it seems I was right about that. In the meanwhile, also there's a third party joining the two of us, so now Verstappen is right behind Williams. So I was kind of hoping that this would distract Williams and they would start battling behind me, because basically me holding up Williams is kind of feeding him to the fishes being Verstappen. And so far it seems to have worked out a little bit. Gap behind us increased again to half a second. But then down the straight, Williams was flashing his lights, which
Car on the left.
I kind of know he's faster than me, but I think the battle for position was on, so
Car on the left.
finally didn't exaggerate it, but another move I love. And Verstappen was trying to be opportunistic and also make his way through at the same time, but doesn't quite work out in the end. So here we see it, Williams flashing his lights, then doesn't actually brake in time either, but here I was very careful into the turn 11 to leave space on the inside, and that for sure slows you down coming into 12. And Verstappen is trying here, but into this corner you really want to have the inside, and by that point the move is kind of over, because the chicane, unless the car in front massively messes up, you're not going to overtake there. Now where you can overtake though is on the start-finish straight, of course, and Verstappen does better than the cars before. Meaning Logic and Williams, in that he leaves a bit of space in front and then closes the gap up a little bit along the straight. Not enough though, again, doesn't quite get in for a move, but once again I outbrake myself a bit. Something I was struggling here is that this track really eats your tires, and I heard a lot of people talk about that beforehand, but I hadn't really done a pit stop for a tire change here, so I hadn't noticed the effect as starkly, but I was kind of feeling it for sure after 14 laps, already a bit earlier. And I guess Verstappen was just probably a bit faster driver than me, but or handled the sliding better. So it's just all over the back of me here, really hunting for a move. Going up the hill it's gonna be difficult, but then turn 9, once again, not my strongest turn. And Verstappen actually manages to come alongside already before turn 9, so then me on the inside I felt really uncomfortable there, and I was very careful on the brakes. So here we can see it again. So up the hill I'm a bit off the curb in the first part, and Verstappen comes along after the second part of the sequence. And then turn 9, as I said, just careful on the brakes because slidey, not my favorite turn, weird inside line, just don't want to risk it. Now I do throw a bit of a dummy into the hairpin. I think Versloppen may have been extra careful there and just left space in case. But I was still trying to stick with him and I end up kind of spinning out. And
Slight damage on the left of the car.
what's worse, I'm a bit too early to let go of the brakes because I thought I could make the turn and I get a bit of damage on the car. So yeah, kind of sucks. But obviously entirely my own fault. So here, throwing a bit of a dummy and then trying to follow him through the turn 11. But my entry was not wide enough. So as I tried to follow the turn that they take, I just turn a bit too sharply and I end up spinning out. I think that's the reason. So yeah, that then let Dixit through at the same time as well as Malanga. So I lost several positions there. To be fair, it's all two cars that I think are faster than me, except maybe Dixit, which is... I'm not entirely sure. I think we're somewhat evenly matched. I just wasn't sure about this track at all. But so, yeah, my last lap, 154.3, really bad lap. And a bunch of cars passed me by. Obviously what happens when you slide out and bump into a wall and then have to waddle your way through the gravel back to the circuit. Now Dixit in front was just a little bit faster than me, but not all that much. So by the end of the next lap, they haven't really run away with it. They do peel into the pits, however, so that clears it out front for me. And I can try and do a really good lap for my last one before my pit stop. So very next lap, I come in. If you watched my previous Silverstone videos, you know that I've had some pit stop mishaps. The latest one, speeding in the pit lanes, which really sucks because it gives you a 30-second stop and go penalty. This time I played it a bit safe, so I was neatly below or at 50 kilometers per hour by the time I crossed the line. I also braked quite well for the stop sign, so just lift straight up. And my pit stop was pretty uneventful until right at the end, where I messed up with my starter. I changed my hotkeys a while back for starter and ignition. I put them on the same button, but one you have to hold a bit, the starter, before it actually does something. And it ends up messing me up there at the end of my pit stop, lose maybe 2 seconds or so because of it, which sucks a little. But anyway. I'm back on my way, and surprisingly I had Dixit behind coming out of the pits. Partly I guess because I did good in an in-lap, but they must have also just had damage to repair or maybe really messed up their pit entry, I don't know. Whichever it was, I overtook them, and by the end of my out lap, they have closed the gap up a lot. So Dixit will be looking to make a move here. I have to say, my outlap really took me by surprise how different the grip levels on the tires was. Just coming out of a pit stop, the contrast was so stark that it really threw me off and I just didn't have a great lap. It's kind of hard to judge because my pit stop time isn't counted as well, so last lap was a 2:58, but I felt that it wasn't good. Now behind Dixit is coming very close, and we saw him blink a bit in my back mirror, but then on the way to turn 5 they come alongside. I have the inside line though, which I prefer in this corner, so on the exit I pull ahead a little bit, but they were very slightly alongside, so I did leave space, and then it looked like they turned into me and pit maneuvered me basically. I end up overheating my tires a bit from there, and then I tried to stick with them, but then up the hill I just mess up myself and I end up sliding out. So here we can see it again. You can really see that Dixit has a very bad connection. It's just blinking a few times. So it does just pull alongside. I was aware, leaving space, of course. Now, anyway, I want to hit the inside here, but I take it a little tight. They're still marginally alongside. I'm leaving space, and they just turn on me and push me off track, which sucked. Then I tried to catch up again, but didn't realize that my tires were a little hot. So just a little too soon on the throttle there, and they end up driving away. And worse here, one of the top cars came by and only barely missed me. I don't remember who it was, but yeah, I'm just gonna guess Pfeiffer or something.
Faster cars approaching.
That's also the section of the race where we're at, basically, that now I'm getting blue flags all the time. Oh, I suppose it was Logic, the previous pass. Now Versloppen, and then next up will be Malanga, but I'll cut away or I'll skip a few laps because really not much of a note happens. Now, here we are in lap 28, and
Got some light damage.
tiredness was setting in. We've been racing for more than 15 minutes now, and I just make a mistake in turn 9, my worst corner, easily. So slide out and get a crash, and yeah, really sucked. In the replay we can kind of see what happens. So heading to turn 9, I get oversteer into it. I try to hold it, but then the pendulum swings the other way, and I just spin out a bit and slide into the wall, take damage. And yeah, I haven't discussed this yet, but my strategy for the race, I was convinced by Ramirez to do a 2-stop. He said the tires will give out and you'll really want to do a 2-stop to not lose too much time on all tires. So I pre-planned to do this second pit stop, but I did go for it a bit earlier than I intended to in the first place, because as you can see, I still had 13 liters in the tank. Now, coming into the pits, I had the same on my mind. I don't want to be speeding in the pit lane. And here, as I crossed the line, I couldn't tell while I was driving. It felt super close. As you can see, as my nose crosses the line, I was doing 52 in the pit stop, in the pit zone. So yeah, I was very upset with myself and thinking, no, another stop go 30 penalty is gonna completely ruin it. It's not a great race for me already because the participant field was so strong that there were very few people I felt I could realistically battle with. Coming out of the pits, I was assessing the situation and I saw I was P13, so I started looking for P12, and if you look at the map here, I marked them with a green arrow. So we're actually super close in space, but they're a full sector and a half ahead of me. Just started sector 2, 2 corners in. So yeah, I have a lot of work to do if I don't want to be last in this race, and I'm just assessing the situation as I make the rounds. So with about 80 minutes to go in the race, I'm completing lap 30, and I'm looking for P12 on the map once again, and I'll just mark it right as I cross the line and I get my time. So here we can see that they just completed turn 5, and they have P8 pretty close behind. So that's giving me a little bit of hope because I'm feeling this gap is insurmountable. But maybe if they get plenty of blue flags and take it very easy with them, maybe that will allow me to make it back. And so here we can see that they're just about being passed by P1 in the race in turn 4. So actually I did gain quite a bit of ground in just 2 laps. Now skipping ahead another 2 laps this time, and we can see that P12 is just running through T3 as I make it past the start-finish line. So again, gained a good bit of ground. But also the clock is ticking down. There's only 7 minutes left now as I complete lap 36. The good news is though, they're just about in turn 1 when I go past the start-finish line. So I am closing rapidly. And I set a new personal best for the race, a 1:45.9. So the 1:45.7, my personal best, feels a bit less like a fluke. But yeah, I was very motivated here and I was doing lap times that I consider very good, like for example the 1:46.5 there, I'm very happy with. And finally, this brings us to the penultimate lap of the race, starting now. There's a minute 40 on the clock, but P1 is already halfway along the track, so they'll start another lap. And I'm about 3 seconds behind on Merchant now, P11. Someone dropped out still. I don't really know who and don't really care because I didn't genuinely overtake them. But I am it's within the realm of possibility that I can legitimately overtake Merchant. So I'm really hoping to get that done. I'm about a second and a half back now, making up a lot of ground breaking into turn 4. And they had to come back to my strategy, so I was convinced by Ramirez to do a 2-stop. I'm not entirely sure that was the right call, because that made it at least very tight with Merchant, if I don't overtake, yeah, I think it just gave away the position to them. but then again it is very noticeable how much slower they are, so I caught up pretty quick and I just need to make the move. The thing is, Merchant is known to be very crash prone, so I'm feeling very cautious here and don't want to make the move unless it's very decisive. So coming towards the last lap starting after this third sector, yeah, I'm feeling quite a bit of pressure from that. Into turn 11, I had a line on the inside, but for example, there I just felt it was too risky to go alongside there with Merchant specifically, so I back out of it and I just stick with him through through the last 2 turns of the track. And this puts us on the last lap, and annoyingly P4 Pronto Spinella was coming up very quickly behind as well, doing 146.4 while I only did a 149.6, being held behind Merchant, a bit held up. So looks like we'll be under blue flags, but then into turn 1 I spot a possible move. They go too deep, but then on turn 2 they managed to park it a bit on the apex. I do go for the inside into turn 3, a bit hesitant at first, but then they leave a lot of space, so that gives me enough confidence to go for it. But then that puts me on this awkward line into turn 4 on the inside, so I brake maybe a bit too cautiously and they pull ahead again, even on the outside of the corner more, or mid corner I'd say. I go for a dive into T5, and I managed to stick alongside, and behind us we can now in the mirror see Spinella showing up. It's flashing their lights from time to time, we'll probably see it in a moment. And yeah, I'm just trying to stick with Merchant here. I really don't care that much about the blue flags. I've been looking, and P3 and P5 were both miles away, so no point to the guy flashing his lights. But anyway, we go for the hairpin, more flashing the lights. I decide to go for a move on Merchant. We're 3 wide, Spinella is alongside me on the left. I'm the meat in this sandwich, but I managed to pull through, and in the end I take the position from Merchant. And if we run it back on a replay, so here I think we're about to head up. No, we're coming out of turn 1, turn 2. So in turn 3 I'm already very close to coming alongside, but not quite yet at the start. But then through the corner I do manage it, and we're now heading to turn 4. Here alongside starting the braking, but then I just am a bit more cautious on the brakes. I also have just left space to keep my minimum speed up. So Merchant pulls out ahead again. To turn 5 we go. I dive on the inside. We're partly alongside, or maybe just a little bit. And Spinella, yeah, super close behind, flashing their lights there. And now I am solidly alongside, and we take the view from Spinella's cockpit, and yeah, more flashing the lights, heading up the SS, up the hill through the SS. Pineapple or Merchant pulls out ahead a bit again. I'm kind of blocking Spinella here, but I genuinely don't give a shit. That guy, P3 was maybe a minute in front and P5 40 seconds behind, so there is no way they could lose or regain a position anymore. It's the last lap for them too. So I make my move on Merchant. They try to keep me very tight on the inside, but we are 3 wide, which maybe they didn't realize. So we end up bumping into each other as yeah, Merchant turns in on me, but I don't really blame them. I can see why they expected more space to be given on the outside, though I think enough space was given, so I don't feel bad about it either. But yeah, that gets the job done. I just follow Spinella across the line now. Merchant still very close behind, but not going to be able to do much through this last few corners unless I massively mess up, which I don't. And so end of the race, not a great one for me, but the field was so strong, and yeah, I get P11. I think maybe I could have beat Ramirez on pace, but I don't know, because he had to quit before he even came close to me. He lost some positions at the start, and then I did end up beating Merchant, and importantly to myself, I didn't quite improve my personal best, which is still 145.7, but the 145.9 did confirm to me that, you know, I can get there with a bit more practice, somewhat consistently. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.